Hey there, my name is Brashler, and in this video, I want to show you how to naturally get rid of this ringing sound on a snare drum. Now, if you're brand new to my channel, I'm all about helping you feel more confident with your production gear no matter where you're starting from. So let's go ahead and dive in. Now, the first thing that we could do is we could reach for EQ. So this is a natural thing that happens on any snare drum, and usually we use moon gels to help kind of contain that ring and lessen it, or gaff tape sometimes drummers use. This is just going to be a natural overtone of a snare drum. And so if we go to our EQ, we could go and enable our EQ and go find this little frequency. So I'm going to go nice and narrow, and I'm going to boost, and then I'm going to go and find that. And it's right there. And so one thing that we could do is we could just go and cut it out, which is a fine way of doing things. You know, we have removed a lot of that sound of that ring. But what you're going to end up finding out is that some of the quieter sections, say the drummer is doing some brush type stuff on the snare drum, with this EQ cut like this, you're really attacking a lot of the tone of the drum. And so by having this cut out this much on an EQ is going to apply that at all times. And that's where a dynamic EQ comes in, is that it can make an EQ adjustment depending on the amplitude or the volume of the drum at that point in time. And so what we can do with the dynamic EQ is we can have this EQ cut happen, but only when the drummer is hitting the drum loudly. And then when he's doing some softer stuff, it won't be affecting it like an EQ cut would be like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and flatten this out and turn off the EQ. And we're going to go into the gate section, and we're going to turn it on. And then on our gate model, we're going to open that up, and we're going to go to the dynamic EQ. Now, the dynamic EQ on the gate is on every single channel of the main channels. So all 40 main channels of the Behringer WING has this dynamic EQ inside of the gate section. And so if you have a channel that you don't necessarily need a gate on, for instance, my snare top, I'm not going to want to put a gate on that. I'm wanting to leave it pretty open. That way I'm getting all of the really quiet things that the drummer is doing, as well as the big hits that he's doing. And so in this case, I can pull up my dynamic EQ. Now there is also a dynamic EQ inside of the effects section, and so we can go ahead and pull up, say, my snare bottom and pull up our effects section, and then we go to our effects type and we can pull up the triple DEQ. Now this is a 3-band dynamic equalizer, whereas the channels inside of the gate has a 1-band dynamic EQ, which is fantastic. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a few different things before I actually start boosting this. And one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the threshold all the way up, and I'm going to press below on this switch while I'm hunting for this frequency. The next thing I'm going to do is take my Q and make it pretty narrow, and then I'm going to boost this. Now, by setting this to below and the threshold all the way up, it's making it so that I can go and seek where that EQ adjustment that I needed to make was, which was around 244 when we remembered when we were doing it with the EQ. So let's go ahead and hunt for this. That's really right there. And so at this point, we could widen this if we were wanting to adjust more, or we could narrow this up if we wanted to as well. And then also on the dynamic EQ is a key solo, so we could use this to go find that frequency that we're looking for. But in this case, I have this frequency now. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to then switch this to above, and then I'm going to turn this down. And then I am then going to go and set my threshold to the point where when the drummer is hitting that drum, it's removing that EQ. And so the next thing that we need to do is we need to set our attack and release times. So my suggestion is to have the attack around 10 and then our release around 100. But we can set this release to follow the natural decay of that drum. The next thing that we have is the ability of adjusting the ratio. So I can set this to a 10-to-1, where we would be removing a lot. Or we can change it to maybe a softer ratio. But in this case, I'm wanting to set this to a 5 or a 10-to-1 on the ratio to really cut down on that sound. And so this isn't going to remove all of that sound. It's only going to do it about 15 dB. But here is the EQ on it without. And here it is with. And again, without. And then with. Without. With. So there is a large difference between the two. Now, the other benefit of using the dynamic EQ is it leaves all of our 6 bands of EQ adjustment of the Behringer WING channel unaffected. So we haven't even touched the EQ, but we've gone through with this dynamic EQ and removed some of that ring sound of the overtone of that snare. Now, I hope this video was helpful for you today. If you do happen to have any questions, or there's a video that you're hoping that I would make on the Wing or really any of the production equipment that's out there, please post that in the comment section down below, as I'm always reading through those comments to find videos that are going to be helpful for you. If you haven't already, make sure to check out my website at drewbrashler.com, where I have some digital downloads available for sale for your Behringer WING X32 and X Air. Thanks so much.